Alright, so I thought this was a good off-season video. Today we're going to be going over some forgotten college football stars. Now, I can almost guarantee you at least one player on this list you forgot about, and these were all relative stars at least for a year. Normally, I would say spanning 2010 to 2016, but either way, the first one, it is DeAnthony Thomas, the gadget player, the kick returner. He was a top 5 overall recruit in the entire country. You can see he was a 3-and-done by looking at his stats, doing it all. How about as a true freshman, averaging almost 11 yards per carry? And it's not like he only had 10 attempts. He did have 55 carries for 595 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then his sophomore year, 11 rushing touchdowns, receiving, yards from scrimmage, the total, dual threat, and then also the punt returns, the kickoff returns. He leaves after 3 years and only gets drafted in the 4th round. But yeah, he was a weapon for Oregon, and it would be interesting. Imagine DeAnthony Thomas stays for a senior year and plays in that national title with Marcus Mariota against Ohio State, but he left after 3 seasons. The next forgotten college football player, it is Antonio Williams from Boston College, and what a random year he had. So he comes in as a freshman, plays okay, averages 5 yards per carry, has about 460 yards. Sophomore and junior years go very similar, and then as a senior for Boston College, he goes for 2,100 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns in 2013. What a random year from Antonio Williams, and that got him drafted in the 4th round. So this is another 4th round pick. He played with the New York Giants for 2 years. He had a total of around 1,000 rushing yards, but averaging just 3.3 yards per carry in the NFL. Antonio Williams, the forgotten 2013 season where he was a unanimous All-American, first-team All-ACC, and he won the award for being the nation's best running back, 2,100 rushing yards alone. That will give you the best running back. Moving on to another forgotten college football player, it is Brandon Dowy for Western Kentucky. We remember Western Kentucky, also Bailey Zappi. They always seem to have quarterbacks put up ridiculous numbers, but yeah, he was at Western Kentucky for a grand total of 5 years, but to be fair, 2 of the years he really didn't play. How about year 3? 14 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. That's horrible, especially in the Sun Belt. They moved to Conference USA, 49 passing touchdowns, and then in 2015, 48 passing touchdowns, just 9 interceptions, leading college football in passing yards back-to-back seasons for Western Kentucky. I vividly remember Western Kentucky being in a bowl game at Marlins Park, which is now called Lone Depot Park, just kind of a random bowl game that was played there, and Brandon Dowy was in it. But yes, another forgotten college star. You have to wonder, imagine he has his college career like right now during this era. He would probably be taking an NIL deal with a good Power 5 school, but it never worked out. He ended up getting drafted almost as the last pick in the entire draft in 2016. He went in the 7th round with the 223rd pick, played with the Miami Dolphins for 2 years sparingly, and then was on the Arizona Cardinals practice squad in 2018. He has not been heard from in terms of an NFL career since then. The next forgotten star, it is Scooby Wright. What an amazing linebacker name that is, Scooby Wright. Yes, he was a 3-and-done in college. His sophomore year, oh my God. A sophomore year for a linebacker, 14 games, 100 total tackles, actually 164 total tackles, 100 of them were solo, 31 tackles for loss, 15 sacks. As a linebacker, 5 forced fumbles in a single year, and unfortunately he suffered a bad injury, only appeared in 3 games. Even in those 3 games, he still had 3.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. That is a crazy, could you imagine a what if he never gets injured? And imagine he plays all 4 years at Arizona. He would be a college football legend. and possibly be in the Heisman race with those kind of stats for Arizona, but he goes off to the NFL. He got drafted in the 7th round by the Cleveland Browns with the 250th overall pick. He played there for less than a year. He was on the Cardinals. He also appeared with the Patriots practice squad in 2019. But what a crazy sophomore year in 2015 for Scooby Wright with the University of Arizona. The next forgotten star, it is DaNell Frey for San Diego State. I remember this kid, the undersized running back from 2013 to 2016. This is when San Diego State was still playing at Qualcomm Stadium, the multi-purpose stadium that used to be the home to the San Diego Chargers at the time. You can see this kid's numbers, just ridiculous. He comes in as a freshman, almost has 800 yards, and then look at the total rushing touchdowns, 20 rushing touchdowns as a sophomore. Junior, he goes for 17 rushing touchdowns. Senior, he goes for 2,100 rushing yards overall. And when you look at the total touchdowns from scrimmage, double digits all 4 years. He could have made some serious money in terms of NIL, but he wasn't, NIL was not available for him. He was also drafted in the 4th round of the 2017 draft by the Philadelphia Eagles, played there for 1 year, and then was on the Detroit Lions practice squad. But yeah, Pumphrey, another forgotten name, another running back that just got ran into the ground as a college player. But to be fair, he was probably too small for the NFL. Maybe he could be a good 3rd down back, kind of like an Austin Eckler, but it was never meant to be for him. Moving on to the next forgotten college star, it is Kadeem Kerley. What an amazing running back name that is. Kadeem Kerley. He was a 3-and-done at Arizona. You could take a look, his sophomore year, a breakout, almost 2,000 rushing yards, 23 rushing touchdowns for Kadeem Kerley as a sophomore. He follows that up with almost 2,000 rushing yards and 19 touchdowns. What a college career. Arizona really had some good players. When you look at him, he also went in the 4th round of the NFL draft. I did not do this on purpose. It's just all these guys were drafted in the 4th round. He was only 5'9", though, and he played with the Chicago Bears for 3 seasons. He only had a grand total of 443 rushing yards, averaging 4 yards a carry with 2 touchdowns. He also played with the CFL as well, getting over 2,000 rushing yards in that league, amassing over 2,000 rushing yards in that league. But Kadeem Kerley, another forgotten star. The next one, it is Nick Florence. Another just weird career for Baylor. Now, this one's going back a little bit further. He was a freshman in 2009. RG3 and the backup for Baylor both got hurt in 2009, so he had to come in and play, and he had a really rough freshman year. 6 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, barely plays as a sophomore and a junior, but you give him credit in that Baylor crazy pass-happy offense. He waits his turn, and as a senior, goes for 33 passing touchdowns, just 13 interceptions, very prolific through the air. Nick Florence, a forgotten name, and he was not drafted in terms of the NFL. The next forgotten star, it is Jordan White of Western Michigan, originally debuting as a freshman in 2007, playing very sparingly. Didn't play in 2008. He was out for the year. He comes back 2009, around 700 yards, and then has a crazy junior and senior season. How about as a senior at Western Michigan? As a receiver, almost 2,000 yards and 17 receiving touchdowns. Jordan White, unbelievable. I'm sure he would get a very lucrative NIL deal if he was in this era. Moving on to the next one, it is Brandon Weeden. Boy, you want to talk about someone that would get bullied for their age. Brandon Weeden. Dude was 26, still playing college football. Take a look. As a freshman, barely plays. As a sophomore, also barely plays. And then junior, senior seasons, 2 breakout years, crazy passing numbers, especially for going back to 2010 and 2011, those Big 12 teams, the shootouts that they would have, Justin Blackmon and Brandon Weeden. And he somehow got drafted in the 1st round by the Cleveland Browns as a 27-year-old. You gotta love it. Brandon Weeden, a forgotten star of college football. But that's just kind of a fun video I wanted to do, guys. That is going to do it for this one. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.